It probably, if I'm honest, it was intended to be for a smaller gathering of people that express the direction myself, but obviously this is a much larger gathering now. It is dark, we are on a busy road here, so okay, just to explain who I am. My name's Chris White. I'm the Operational Director at Brent Council, responsible for the Council's environmental services. So that's the services, the frontline operations around waste, cleansing, highways, parking, community safety, trees, parks, those sorts of considerations. So that's my remit. I've got a couple of officer colleagues with me this evening. I've got Tony Kennedy on my left here, who's the Council's Head of Highways and Infrastructure, so is the gentleman responsible for maintaining our roads and all our footways in good condition. And I've got Gary Rimmer here, who's the Council's Tree Officer. So this is our resident expert in all things relating to our tree stock. So Gary's very experienced, understands our tree stock, and has been a member of the Council staff for quite a while. I probably don't need to explain the background here too much, but very simply what we're planning to do in Furness Road is relay the footway here, because our conditions survey has shown that it is in very dire need of repair. It's one of the worst across the borough, and hence we're prioritising some resource to improve it. Now, what we do as part of these considerations is take a view at all the street furniture and all the street trees before we undertake that work, so that we can take the opportunity to tidy things up and make better sense of what's in the street in the first place. One of the considerations that is usually taken forward in the first instance is we look at the quality of the existing tree stock for a couple of reasons. One, we need to understand which trees are dead, dying or diseased, and which really should be taken out, because they will eventually die and have to be taken out in any case, or might present a safety hazard because they will either fall over or bits will fall off them. So we take this opportunity as standard to take those trees out and to take a view and to replace them. Where we do take a tree out, as I've explained in my correspondence, we will commit to replacing that tree, not just with a sapling, and I think that's been a concern that's been raised, but I think given the interest here, one of the commitments that we can readily make is that when we do take a tree out, we will at very least replace that tree with a more semi-mature tree, so that it looks more in keeping with the tree streetscape and be a better. We're not going to be. We're going to be replacing the trees as part of this work. So the new trees. We're talking about the trees that are removed as part of this program. Yeah. So Furness Road and all the other trees that will be subject to this program of footway renewal. So when we relay a footway in a street, we will take a view on which trees can usefully come out or should come out as part of that work, because they're not healthy, they will die, and they should and usefully be replaced by a new, young and healthier tree that will serve as an investment in future years. So that's part of the process. The other part of the process, the other consideration that we do certainly need to account for, is where an existing tree is creating such a trip hazard that it's a danger to pedestrians and people who make their way up and down the street. So we've got a number of locations where we've got trees on the street here where you'll notice that the roots have raised to such a level that the slabs or the footway is starting to become fractured, raised and presenting a hazard. Now that is a very serious consideration for the Council on a couple of fronts. One, it leaves the Council open to insurance claims of considerable value, so it's something that we need to protect ourselves against in that regard. But it's also a means of protecting residents who are vulnerable, elderly and who may have mobility issues. So that is a very serious consideration, and it is quite a significant obligation on the Council to make sure that these situations are dealt with and sorted out. Well, it's certainly considered. Right.
Well, you explain that to an 80-year-old with a broken hip that's just tripped over. I'm sorry. So what we have seen in the past is where elderly people do suffer as a consequence of these trips and falls, these scars can be very, very debilitating and life-changing. We've witnessed that on a number of occasions across the borough, so it is a serious consideration. I wouldn't dismiss it on the back of the climate. Can I go on many uneven pavements, which are a trip hazard, and no tree within sight?
Absolutely, and they will be addressed. But can I just explain, picking up on this lady's point, that there are ways and means of where the dead, diseased are dying, and where they, at that point, presenting a trip hazard. And on that assessment, 11 trees were flagged as creating
a potential removal issue.
Scandalous. Scandalous, Chris. There need to be 11 other solutions for those trees.
Yes, well, I'm coming to that.
Wrong way around.
So I'm coming to that.
Why did those trees are these healthy trees here?
Right. So as a consequence of the concern that was raised, once those 11 trees had been marked for removal, we committed to undertake a further assessment, which was a look at how we can mitigate some of the root issues at some of those trees in a way that would prevent that tree having to be taken out. So we found alternative measures of mitigating the root damage at 5 of those trees.
Are those tree measures or engineering measures?
They're engineering, so it's about a reef profiling of the footway to dome it around the roots so that it becomes less of a tree.
Why wasn't that done initially? Yeah. Why did you have to be asked to come back and look at it again?
Well, it is part of the project.
Can I just add, everyone? Hi, everyone. Councillor Jumbo Chan. I've contacted some of you. I think one of my main concerns, really, and I think I'm going to first of all say that I believe wholeheartedly that the officers want what's best for the area. However, I'm going to say that the signs went up 2 weeks ago, and then I put in an emergency inquiry straight to you, Chris, actually, last weekend, and then the signs came back down the next day. And then I feel that actually, like, people aren't informed. We're not informed what's happening, and then I feel like things are being done to us. So all I ask, really, and this is a very modest, humble request, is that whatever happens going forward, that we are all kept informed.
Jumbo,
not
just
the night before.
Just to quickly interrupt you. On Friday, when we first did hear about this, or when I was first contacted, Chris and the officers stayed up for a good part of a long time, and they put a pause on it, and I did update people who had emailed me on that Friday and Saturday morning saying nothing would happen.
Look, the situation is we've made an initial assessment, 11 trees were identified, we've made a further assessment that shows that 5 trees are okay to stay. 3 we've certainly established are dead, diseased, and should come out.
Which trees? I've looked at them all, there are no signs.
I walked up the road with Gary.
Gary's going to explain which 3 trees.
Well, I was with Gary. I didn't see 3 dead trees. We saw one. Did we not? It wasn't dead.
There are no
Let
dead.
me just tell you what's happening.
Have they died in the last week?
Let me tell everybody. Okay.
So Gary will explain.
Let me start with the 3 most straightforward ones, I think. At number 88, okay, there's a cherry tree. It's got serious damage to its trunk. It's sitting there now. If any of you want to go and have a look at it, please do so. Okay. The next one is at number 56. Okay.
Did you shout out a bit?
Okay, sorry. Another one at number 56. That one we've already reduced to the level of a stump.
Sorry, Gary.
Just a minute.
You're incorrect.
Let me just finish what I'm
saying.
saying. Hang on, let me finish. Then I'll ask people to, if you want to question me, they can question me, yes?
Not right.
56, okay, when that was assessed, it was half dead. Can I invite any of you who are suspicious about this to have a look at Street View's June 2019 image of the tree near number 56, okay? The third tree is one at 46. It's dying slowly. Again, I'm going to invite you to look at Street View's June 2019 image of that tree. It's fairly clear that there's lack of foliage on it. Okay, so those 3 trees, okay, forget what the highways are doing with the pavements. When this road is included in our work programme next year, those 3 would have been removed anyway. Okay?
But you never replaced them. You've taken 5
yes,
off there already.
we're aware of that as an issue. So let me tell you about the other 3. With the other 3 trees, the highways unit did assess them again to see if they could be retained, if there was, if you like, a pavement workaround, and they just honestly thought that there wasn't. So there's 3 trees that would be removed anyway for arboricultural reasons, and there's 3 trees that the pavement issues are severe enough that they can't really be retained. So there's 6 being removed, not the original 11. And those 6, as Chris has said, are going to be replaced.
Well, that's interesting, Gary, because when I walked the street with you last Friday before last, we saw 1 tree that was in poor condition, and we talked around about what could be done around the trees that might be causing issues for the pavement. So I don't know what's changed.
Do you mean the walk around we had last Monday? Do you remember we looked
Monday,
at,
sorry, last
we looked
Monday.
at the stump. Do you remember even the one at 88, that pleasant man with the dog who lived there? Do you remember? Gentleman with a Canadian coat on and a dog, quite a natty dresser that was here tonight. But he lived there, and he recognised that.
The tree, that's the tree that is in poor condition. The
Yes,
tree, the
yes.
single tree. Every
Yes.
other tree we looked at, the one outside 56 is still in leaf.
No, sorry, not right. Look where the stump is. Again, can I suggest to people have a look at the street view image for June 2019? The trees here.
Why don't we just have a look at them?
Because the one at 46 now, okay, it's totally defoliated because it's winter time. So I can't illustrate what it is like.
What are you basing it on? That the tree's dead? It's like
No,
a
it's
foliage.
not. No, it's not
Dying.
dead. It's dying. Yes.
How do you know it's dying? It's like a foliage.
Well, how do we know that?
Yeah, and also you can see by the sort of rather minimal shoot extension, which is you're not going to be able to see that in the dark.
Can I just make a observation?
No, okay, all right.
Unless Gary's finished. I mean, Gary,
The gentleman's asked, surely we wait until it dies, okay? You can if you want, you just leave it there, wait till it dies. Meanwhile, the highways unit are wasting public money trying to manoeuvre around it. 2 years down the line it dies anyway. I don't
and not just that, we can't leave a dying tree or a dead tree in situ in any case, because we've seen incidents in this borough where dead trees create a very serious hazard for people passing by. We've had trees that sadly have fallen on top of people in the past, and that is a situation that we really must avoid in the future.
This begs a different question, if you don't mind. Really, what are you doing to keep our trees alive?
Right.
So you don't.
Can I add to that question as well, please?
What are you doing to keep them alive?
Can I just add to that, actually? My name is Fiona Mulash. I'm from Kenzo Rise. I mean, obviously, trees are a very emotive issue, and for good reason. It really should not have come to this, where we have to come and start fighting for trees. But obviously, we did. We have our lead councillor here. Given that there's a £20 million program going on, which will involve a number of trees being looked at and reviewed, can you give us assurance that the same scrutiny will be given to other residents in other areas, and it will not necessarily require us to come out on a night like this to.
Let me just explain one thing. So we've identified 6 trees that need to be removed. 3 because they are 6 trees.
How many in Brent? How many in Brent? How many in Brent have you identified?
So as Gary's just explained, 3 trees have been.
There's only one tree.
So, in a minute. Can you tell me?
In a minute.
How many have been identified in Brent?
I can do that as well.
Yeah, do you have a figure?
Chris, can you also give me assurance about my question?
I'm talking about trees being cut down, because where I live, which is a long way from here, they've been cut down time after time along Anson Road. All that area, slowly one, then another, then another, then another, until we're losing our avenue.
So can you
And
please
if it
answer
carries
that
on,
question?
eventually it's going to be treeless, obviously. So what is being done to keep the trees alive?
2 years ago, Chris, we had a meeting about the 40 trees on Connaught Road.
That's right.
We got a letter in our mailboxes on Connaught Road that month, in August, when everyone is away, at the end of the month, they would all be felled. 40 trees. Well, they would take part in 2 years. Half the first year, that August, half the following August. We had to fight like mad.
So can you answer my question and give us that assurance?
And you most graciously afforded us a meeting. But I want to know why. So the venue, is it? The reason was lack of funds to maintain these. We've got a lot of questions. Lack of funds. There was no ill health.
We pay the wages of these people.
Okay, can I answer this lady's Connaught Road related question?
I think you should answer this lady's question, because this is the big one. She's saying, she's asking.
They feel we're having separate conversations. Nothing's going to answer this. That's why we should have had a proper meeting and a proper venue. When we have a proper venue all over here, if people don't respect each other, this was always going
going to be chaos on the street, wasn't it? No, it's not. You have a meeting, you have a chairperson, you take the questions. We shouldn't even be here.
There's a lot of questions.
I'm saying we shouldn't even be here because if people were doing their job, they would be costing these trees and taking in the environmental benefit of these trees when you do your environmental cost-benefit analysis. Was that done? It can't have been, because otherwise, why would you be felling 5 mature trees outside a primary school? It's crazy. It's madness. Why have you still got cars coming down this road?
Well, the problem with the trees that create a trip hazard outside of primary school, that's a consideration in itself. But Fiona, do you want to make the point that you're trying to make?
Okay, so excuse me. The point.
A proper conversation rather than everyone talking.
Okay, Chris has asked me to reiterate the point I was making, the question rather. What I'm looking for is assurance from our leader, Mohammed Bat, and our Environment Cabinet lead here, Krupashev, to give us assurance that we will not be put in this position again, where we have to come by and stand up for the trees, because what we should have is automatic scrutiny. Do you know what I mean? You've got £20 million that you're going to be spending. This group across Brent, this will not be the first group that will be concerned. We need information in advance. We need to be consulted. We need to ensure that...
And can I add to that? We need to have the highways pavement plan published with all the trees identified that you plan to fell, so that we can see it and we can send it to other residents.
That's right. To that, we are not the first group. It's happened in Willesden, it's happened in Mate Street, it's been happening everywhere.
Right.
So this is not the first time you are confronted with this issue.
It has to stop.
I'm sure you gave them assurance.
So you're cutting down trees in the in Paddington Old Cemetery. Excuse me, you're cutting down trees, 150-year-old living trees in Paddington Old Cemetery. Why?
Why? When you're aspiring to be the cleanest, greenest borough in London.
You're cutting down trees around the whole borough. Why?
Would you like to explain the rationale behind chopping down these trees?
Right, I've just explained it. So the rationale, let me just explain the rationale so everyone is clear. Let me explain the rationale so everyone is clear. The rationale is that 3 of those trees are unhealthy and on the way out. 3 of them. We've established that. Our tree person, Gary...
Why haven't you kept them healthy?
They're beautiful, healthy trees.
Trees are natural organisms. They live and they die. That's the process. So we've got 3 that are now on the way out.
Gary, would you like to comment?
And then you condemn 6
We stood here and looked at the trees the other day. I don't think they were dying last week.
Remember that the scheme is for the
I know, darling.
Furness Road, not this part here.
So we're talking about these trees.
Do you want to talk about the other part of Furness Road? Seriously? Are you bringing that up?
As I mentioned earlier, looked at them again.
Oh, and they're not dying now.
Decided to remove 6, 3 of which would be removed in the natural course of events, irrespective of what was happening with the pavement. There are 3 other trees that the highways unit, sorry about my phone, feel that there is no acceptable pavement workaround to make the pavements accessible in the long term. Okay?
What's the long term? What is long term?
In the next 10 to 20 years.
The next 10 to 20 years?
Yes.
So in the meantime, okay, the pollution, the children, our environment.
Right. So that takes us.
10 to 20 years. This is not making sense.
No, it makes no sense.
And I'd like a second opinion as well.
They're all.
I want a second opinion.
Well, clearly they're all on the
I
public
can't
highway.
believe this.
So if you want anyone to have a look at them,
Yeah, because we're going to fight for these trees.
But we can't trust you to look at them because you looked at them and you wanted to chop them down. How can we trust you? How can we trust your contractors?
So the next part of the plan, which I'll probably usefully explain now, is that where we do take an unhealthy tree out, or we do take a tree out that is currently posing a hazard for people that are vulnerable to that hazard, we will replace that tree
in the same place. In the same place.
No, this is a separate program. It's a separate program. It's a separate.
We are not separating.
Okay.
We are not separating it from the street. There's 20 trees around here that you've taken in the last 5 years.
And you haven't done anything about it.
I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
But there is no equivalence, and Gary will bear me out on this, and anyone with any bit of common sense, there is no equivalence between a replacement sapling and an established.
We're not talking. What we're not talking about is a small sapling.
Well, you were until you've changed your tune this week, Chris. You've changed your tune because of the outrage. You were talking about a replacement sapling.
Do not it's wrong. Stop.
Come down and ask him again.
What about the trees that you've taken out and you haven't...
Audit.
in the posh areas.
Yeah, good point.
The posh areas. Hold on. Not the meeting.
It's not the proper meeting.
When do you want the meeting?
We'll have it. We want the proper meeting.
When do you want the
Maybe you should organise and tell us all. Maybe you can send us all an email.
We're not dealing with the passion of this.
I haven't moved anywhere.
The gentleman will set up a meeting and tell us all. That would be nice. Hi, how are you?
So can I suggest?
Why do you think I'm here?
Listen, excuse me, everyone. This is
Everyone,
so I'm gonna. Can I suggest we? I'm gonna ask on behalf of residents. We pause this and we don't do anything, and then it's going to be very busy now. December. I think it's going to be very, very busy. So I think January, I want proper meeting for information.
Please,
thank you very much.
To hear what Jumbo is saying.
And you know what? I'm really grateful that you guys have actually all come out. Right? I can see the passions are there. Right? That in relation to what we're trying to do here. Right, yes, right. We do have a number of trees that do need to be addressed, and we need to make sure that we're making sure we look at those trees. Right, we have 6 trees have been identified out of those 11 trees, right, that need that action and the remedial action that needs to be taken. We need to do that.
It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Forget about it. It's not happening.
What we want is a meeting.
If you allow me to,
a meeting about the trees in Brains. Listen. Let him finish speaking. That will be more constructive, as opposed to everybody shouting, because you're just causing diversion.
It's the language. It is happening, he's saying.
But unfortunately,
it's that bloody arrogance that is unreal coming across. It is going to happen.
Listen, lady, let him finish.
As I was saying, we out of those 11 trees, we have 6 trees. We have 6 trees that do need that remedial action. Right? We need to do something about those trees. Okay? Right? There's no way that we can leave dead or decaying trees on the street. Okay?
Or dangerous trees.
Or dangerous trees. Right? Because we have had instances where those dead and decaying trees have actually caused hurt.
How many times has this been
Give me the statistics.
There was one fatality.
When? This is bloody thing.
Can we talk about this? Is rhetoric.
It's not dead and dying that you're insisting on.
Can I just explain? It's not in my interest, or Tony's interest, or the leader or councillor's interest, or Gary's interest to do damage to our trees. It's not.
It's done.
Would it be worth, just a second, from the residents assembled here, would it be worth, excuse me Fiona, would it be worth nominating one of you to act as a chair now?
I think
so
we should
follow questions back and forth.
Dad, we want a meeting. Challenge the decision. We want a meeting, and we want to get our ideas together as a community, and we'll come back to you. We want to, and we don't need a chairman. We need a meeting.
You can have a meeting, but I'm telling you now,
we want a meeting.
We will have a meeting. We're happy to have a meeting. Can I just explain the circumstances of those 6 trees are not going to change between now and the meeting. The dead trees will become more dead over that period, and the tree hazards won't vanish.
Have you already signed the contract?
It's a victory. You voted for me, not Councillor Butt. I represent you. So that's why I want the meeting. That's why I want the meeting vote. I think we need a meeting. I'm a councillor. I'm from Kensal Green. He's the leader. I'm
You're the leader of our council.
Well, I think.
Have you got what's your green? What is the Labour? What is your green policy?
Well, there was a climate emergency motion.
It's not just that. We have a whole program of events that
I think we need
environment.
You're the leader of the council.
Manifesto is set.
Are you the leader of the council?
I've got nothing further to say.
Can you actually?
Can we just gather a second?
Do us the decency.
Excuse me, everyone.
And not point your finger at me.
Excuse me.
Wait, how am I pointing my finger at you?
That's what was happening earlier.
When?
Earlier on.
Have I refused any meeting with you?
Yes.
When?
Can I just...
No, have I refused any meeting with you? You said I refused any meeting. When did I refuse a meeting?
We're going to bring this discussion to
I just live up the road.
Let's try and gather
Like everything the politicians do, they've already planned it. There's no listening.
How am I going to set a meeting up if you don't contact me?
You don't. Why can't you contact, like our residents association?
Hi there, sorry to interrupt. Can I grab one of those cards, please? I'm just doing that.
Okay.
So when's the meeting arranged?
There is no meeting yet.
Well, when are the trees coming down? When are the trees coming down?
When we unpause things, we haven't.
They were due to come down 2 weeks ago.
I know.
Right, so you've got the thing. He's going to contact you, and you're going to set you as a leader.
No.
It can go in the newspaper.
Why is he going to contact me?
Because we're going to get a meeting.
Sorry, can the meeting happen? Is the meeting happening?
Can I have a meeting with yourself?
Can I ask a question?
Well, we're having it with the residents of
Is the meeting going to happen before the trees come down?
Yes.
No, it's the wrong answer. Surely, it's the wrong answer.
Wait. Okay. Right. It depends on when we have the meeting, doesn't it?
Well, we're
Sorry?
It depends on when we have the meeting.
We can have it tomorrow.
What if I can't make it tomorrow?
When can you make it? Are you refusing the meeting then? So now we're into something, right? Trees come down, we don't have the meeting. So this is bamboo.
Let's follow it. Excuse me, everyone. This is obviously reached as far as it can possibly reach this evening.
Basically,
Excuse me.
he's asking me a question.
Excuse me.
You can ask me as many questions as you want.
He's asking me a question.
I'm not asking.
We're bringing them.
I'm up for that.
We're bringing the meeting to a conclusion. Look, I think we've probably gone as far as we can on the street here with this particular discussion.
Okay.
Simon,
there is just one point I'd like to make.
Okay.
You and your colleagues came down my street just over 3.5 years ago.
That's right.
With this tarmac policy, as you're well aware. And at the time, I asked you for the costings about reusing and resetting flagstones. Your colleagues provided me with that figure, which I believe was about 60%, where there would be a threshold break even. And yet still, and one of my other colleagues went down and surveyed every single flagstone, and it was over 92% were intact. And yet still, you went and carried on with your work. You cut down 7 healthy mature trees and killed another one.
7 healthy trees. 7 healthy trees.
Gary mentioned
7 healthy trees.
Hang on. Gary rightly mentioned Google Street View being a great way to actually assess trees and the pavement. If you go and look on Google Street View, earlier this year, in the summer of this year, you'll see most all of these trees, looking very vigorous and healthy. Fair enough. But the pavements, if you look at the paving slabs, the vast majority of them are all intact. And
exactly.
so, what on earth, there is no sense in taking all of these out, destroying them, passing them off-site, and then shipping in huge amounts of a fossil fuel derivative. You know where tarmac comes from. You know where bitumen comes from.
Unbelievable.
There is a climate change that you guys
in
have rightly
2020
declared.
actually even
So
trying to
I'd
do
like
this.
to see some consistency.
Unbelievable.
Yes, exactly.
It's